Welcome back to the Mulberry Book Drop. Hey, Bethany.
Hi, Sarah.
How you doing?
I'm awesome.
Welcome to September.
Thank you.
I'll spare you the song because I really want to sing.
I don't know if we can afford that.
No, we cannot. That I do know. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah. I love fall, so I'm very happy.
Me too. What season is it, Bethany? It's not fall, it's...
pumpkin spice season.
Ooh! You know, I've already been getting it at the coffee shops and in the stores from a creamer for my coffee at home.
See, and I'm not the coffee person, but I like to bake and cook with pumpkin.
I also love to eat and bake I love to eat the things that you bake.
There you go.
For my birthday this year, you did make me the pumpkin spice cake, and it was absolutely delicious, guys. Delicious. So, anyways, what do we want to talk to the folks about today?
Well, okay, so I was looking at this thing the other day that was about a bookworm versus a book dragon. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really feel like I fit into either category. And so I was like, well, what else could there be? So then I was asking my family, and I said, well, what do you think? Because a bookworm, well, that's what I always used to consider myself, is, that little cutesy cartoonish with the glasses and the apple, and he's so cute. Mm-hmm. But I was like, I feel like I've outgrown that. Uh-huh. But I'm not a dragon. No. I'm not a fantasy person.
Rawr. Just kidding.
So I was trying to figure out, what would I be? And so my family decided that I would be a book octopus because they have 8 tentacles for my TBR that I'm always bringing home from work because there's always a stack of books. Yeah. And so there's me with my TBR. So I am a book octopus.
That math does math.
Thank you.
I wish you guys could see Bethany on Fridays when we're getting ready to go home.
It's true. I got to bring all my holds.
Yep. She's like, all right, guys, hold on. I got to take a couple trips. I'll be right back.
I have been known to drop them off in my car before we get ready to leave.
Yeah, it's okay. Sometimes I think that's a great problem.
Yeah. Have you grown from a worm to a dragon? Because I feel like you are the fantasy girl.
Yeah. Listen, give me the wings, give me the scales, give me rawr.
I love that.
That's how my dragon sounds, rawr.
Well, so I did ask my coworkers. We were asking the other day at the desk when it was quiet for a second, and I was like, well, what would you guys call yourselves? And Alicia, some of you know her, gave me permission to share this, but Alicia was hilarious because she thought about it, and then she told me, I think I'm a groundhog. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And some of you might remember we did actually do an episode dedicated to the groundhog in honor of another one of our coworkers because Groundhog's Day is her favorite holiday. But Alicia actually had a reason for it, and I honestly thought this was very legit.
Yes.
So she said, I come out all excited and read, then I'm back and I'm gone for a bit. And if that doesn't explain Alicia's reading habits to a T, I don't know what does. Yeah. So she is a book groundhog. I am an octopus. You are a dragon. Many of you are bookworms. Totally cool. Yeah. But yeah, I would love to know what animal you guys all see yourselves as. So if you want to send us a message or stop in and talk to us about it, I think it would be hilarious.
Yeah. And it's so funny because Bethany had brought this conversation up. And I was like, I just saw this online. One of the other libraries in the county did a window display. And they were like, are you a bookworm or a book dragon? And they drew worm and dragon. And first off, creativity to a T. Cute. It was absolutely cute and adorable. And I was like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look up the picture because it was... There's somebody I follow on Instagram, and she's always like, hey, they're book dragons. And so that was kind of where the whole thing catapulted from.
A what?
Yeah, yeah.
But now we need an octopus or a groundhog. I know. Drawn on. Why do you guys have a groundhog on your window?
See, but if you listen to the podcast, if you know, you know.
That's true. That's true. Tell your friends. Anyways, we're going to get down to business. Today is, I think, going to be super fun. Because Bethany and I both read 2 books by 2 authors that we absolutely love. And so I'm going to say the book titles, but just know that this episode is going to be a lot of spoiler alerts. So if you want to read the books, we suggest you pausing, going and reading the books and coming back. Or you can skip this episode and come back to it later. Whichever, but spoiler alerts, okay? One more time for the folks in the back. Spoiler alerts. You can't say we didn't warn you. Anyways, so we are going to discuss by Abby Jimenez, Say You'll Remember Me, and by Emily Henry, Great Big Beautiful Life. You have heard us talk about these authors time and time again, and we are so excited to dive in. So Bethany, it's going to be more like a Q&A. Are you down for that?
I am.
Solid.
I got my notes.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so we are going to jump back in, and one more time. These are spoiler alerts. Okay, you've been warned. We're done. All right, so first question of this is, which book do you think you would enjoy more and why?
I think my initial expectation was that I would enjoy Abby a little more. Only because her books tend to be like a little lighter, a little bit of a quicker read. And at the time when I was reading the two of these books, like we were very busy, hectic world. And so I just kind of thought this one would be a little lighter for me. The way she writes her books, I feel like she doesn't really mess around with the plot. You kind of know who the love interests are going to be. You know the conflict they're facing. It's usually like a kind of a simple conflict sometimes, but because Emily Henry tends to be more like enemies to lovers, lies and miscommunication. So sometimes there's more that you have to like pay attention to, so that you don't like miss the story itself and like what's happening between the characters. So I do enjoy Emily Henry books a lot, so I don't want you to think that, it's just sometimes drama's not my jam.
Yeah.
And that's just where I was at that moment.
And that's okay.
Yeah. What did you think?
So same. My guess was Abby's book, because her books have been hitting for me. That's literally how I phrased it. And I said, could I sound any more 2025 right now? But the overall story sounded more intriguing for me. I personally like the feel of the book better in my hand, because both of these books I did physically read. And the Emily Henry book feels thicker. That's literally what I wrote was, that book feels thicker. I don't know about that one. So
I could totally picture you like just holding each book in a hand and being like,
like pondering my thoughts.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did. Okay, well, now that you've read the books, were you correct in your guess, and why?
I was. I did have to suspend disbelief a little bit with the Abby Jimenez one, which I think we'll probably get into that a little bit later. But it was a little more relatable for me. So like the family caring for an ill-loved one, that kind of stuff was more relatable. It was definitely a lighter read. And then like Henry, I really liked it, but it did not read to me as a romance. And I was going in as a contemporary romance.
Same. Agreed.
I think if Emily Henry had been billed to me more as just like fiction in general, or maybe even a mystery, my answer could be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah. What, do you think you were right about your guess?
Oh, my guess was totally correct. It hit a little bit more for me. Say You'll Remember Me, I mean the title alone, sorry. I definitely had more feelings during it, and we know I am a feelings person when it comes to reading. So I really grew to love the characters and wanted that happily ever after, like really early on in the book. I did still enjoy Emily's book, but it was different from anything else that I had read from her. So I don't feel like I connected to the characters as much as I normally do. And I honestly don't feel like the two main characters had a lot of screen time, so to speak. So I feel like the main focus was more on the family saga that they were competing over. So,
yeah,
it was still great though. Okay, so if we're comparing the covers of the books to each other, the number of the pages, the feel of the book, series versus not, like, what did you think about it?
So I really liked the Abby cover. It was that like classic couple walking on the beach and nuzzling. And actually, if you look closely, they are not kissing. They're almost like nuzzling kind of. And for me, it's almost a hint of how she writes a lot of her romances, because I consider them like a closed door romance. So like, like something's happening, but it's never really, there. And then of course there was the dog and the Ferris wheel, which all plays into the story. And it was very like calming pink and blue shades. So kind of like a beach sunset. But then Emily, hers was this like bright mosaic. Yeah. So it was all like similar colors. There were like large lettering. It was almost like a cartoonish image of the two love interests. So I thought that was very interesting. But on the cover, they were like far apart. And so maybe that could have been my first clue that it wasn't necessarily a romance like her other books, but like I didn't get that right away. So I don't know what the colors say about the romance or like the distance, you know. But yeah, and I also noticed too, like they're almost like, what was it, like 80-page difference? Abby's book was 353 pages and Emily was like 432 pages. So they were around, yeah. Did you notice any big differences with the covers?
So the kind of the notes that I had down were kind of the same as yours. So like for Abby's book, I love the cover. I'm a sucker for a Ferris wheel. I don't know. Every time I see it in a movie, every time I think my phone lock screen has been a Ferris wheel several times in my life. Of course, the dog, which I will say at the beginning of the book, I said, oh, are we going to finish this one? Because I said, there's a dog here, because one of the main characters is a vet. And I said, oh, we're starting off strong. Oh, no. I did continue. But it kind of made me feel like I was going on more of a vacation. And one of the notes I wrote about the cover is both characters are tall. That's literally what I wrote. But for Emily, I was thinking that it was more like a sun on the cover, and were they matching the dress color and the top cover on purpose? And I don't really know where I was going with that. But I did mention that the page number, which is 432 pages, seemed kind of long for a contemporary romance, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, and I have later in my notes, like, about the contemporary romance thing, which you've touched on a little bit already.
Okay. Did you think either of them could be a series?
I would love for Abby's too. I think there were enough friends in the friend group, there were enough siblings that they totally could. And I would be all for it if she does decide to go down that route. But for Emily Henry's, I don't feel like it. I feel like that one was, all right, we close the book, done, over.
It felt like a complete book.
And she does tend to write more standalones.
Yes.
She doesn't write series, and Abby does. So,
yeah, for Abby, I had put in my notes that like maybe the sister or the brother story could continue the series.
Yeah. Or
like in true Abby fashion, that it would be like Mike's sister maybe finds love at the diner, or like Xavier and Samantha just kind of, they would pop in on a friend's trip. Right. So like the people that were in the first book are like side characters in the second book.
Yeah.
I could easily see her doing that. But yeah, Emily's felt very complete to me. I had a lot of closure with her book, which I super appreciate. And yeah, you're right. She really doesn't do series. I don't ever expect a series from Emily Henry.
Right. And that's not a bad thing. Okay, so I know that we both talk about how we love when authors write like a little message to us before the book starts. So do you want to talk about those notes from authors?
Yeah, I will say I don't think that Emily's needed a note. I know her book did touch on some stuff, but not as heavily as Abby's book did.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that Abby put the note in the beginning. It basically is just kind of warning you about some triggers that might be coming up in the book, because the Abby Jimenez book does deal with dementia and, an ailing parent and stuff. And that may be very difficult for some people, depending on, the time that you choose to pick this book up. And, that's not to say it's not the right book ever. It just, maybe you need 6 months before you can take a deep breath and try it,
Yeah.
Emily's book, hers did touch on like adoption and depression and some of that stuff, but I don't think it was ever like super heavy. But I have been noticing more and more that authors are writing these notes at the beginning of their books, and I really appreciate it. And it doesn't always have to be a full letter, dear reader, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Even just a simple sentence, this book touches on alcoholism, blah, blah. Like you could just list the 3 main things and then let the reader decide. I don't know. I think it's a pretty great thing. You already have the page where you do the dedication. Like, why not just have the page with just a simple sentence? Just, do you see those a lot in your books lately?
Yes. And I will say that I have actually read like the triggers on one book, and I said, I'm not in a spot where I can read that right now. And I've put it to the side, and I have come back to it when I've been in like a better like mental space, and ended up loving the book. And, I'm like, oh, well, what if I had picked it up back then? Like, would I have loved it? Would I have hated it?
Right.
Would it have put me into, like, deeper whatever I was going through? I do love when there are warnings in the beginning of books, because I feel like it helps so much. And even if the subject matter isn't a trigger for a person, it's still nice to be almost warned.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, hey, this is what you can expect in this book. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but especially in my case, if it's about a dog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I actually did put this on Emily's, that there weren't necessarily trigger warnings at the beginning, but there is quite a bit of death in the book. So I don't necessarily think that it would have hurt to put that in there.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and I didn't think about that, and I honestly forgot about that until just now.
Yeah. Well, if there's any publishers and editors listening,
yeah,
we just want to say we are very pro letters at the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah, and it almost feels like when an author does put a letter at the beginning, like obviously you're writing the book for readers, but like I don't know, it feels almost like a touch more like we're friends.
Yes.
Like, oh,
like they wrote this book for me.
You wrote a letter to me.
Yeah.
I'm special.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyways, okay, so on to the next question. How were the books similar?
I think we had so we kind of met our obvious relationship partners pretty quickly in both books. Like there was no wasting time with that. There was no extra characters that kind of made you wonder, like, who could it be? But they did both have their romance checklist, is what I consider it. So there was like some sort of storm, right? Like a thing that, only means something to them. So like we have the storm where they're like kind of stuck together or trapped in a situation. And then you also have a thing that means something to this particular couple. So like in Abby's book, there was the song Come On Eileen. And obviously the animals, like that kind of stuff. But then in Emily, it was that like the green tea, the coffee, the croissants. Right. Like I'm making it sound very simple right now, but if you've read the book, you understand that there was a whole thing with, that cafe and when she brought the stuff and left it outside his hotel room. Like there was a lot going on in that little offer, right? And it only meant something to the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of similarities did you see?
So what I got was that, of course, both intros to the main characters were not good encounters. Like, and then that's when you go, oh, they're going to like each other. But then there was also the potential of the long distance between both couples. So I thought that was interesting. But I was like, oh, what are the odds? Because I feel like that's not super common in contemporary romance. But both books that we happen to be reading, that did fall into it. So that's kind of like the ones that I said, oh, yeah. So, okay, well, we talked about how they're kind of similar, like, but how are they different?
I think for me, the main difference was the overall feeling between the characters' romance itself. So Abby, when I was reading it, I really felt the whole, like, I'm going to die without this person. Like, the whole time. So even though they were trying to figure out how to be together, there was just, like, that constant yearning. So it was a very, like, focused on the couple book, whereas Emily's book was more forced proximity. So they would have been fine if they had never met, probably find each other a tad annoying, but like you're still a little curious, and somehow she still managed to make the couple seem like a side story, which I thought was very interesting. So Abby's book was very couple focused, and Emily's book had some other stuff going on that almost made the couple seem like side characters, even though you knew you were there because of the couple. Right. Yeah. Oh, so that's kind of funny because I wrote a little bit of the same thing. Oh. So in Abby's book, I was thinking about how the characters were not similar at all. Their jobs, their hobbies, etc. But in Emily's, they were actually both writers. So they both had like the same similar jobs. In Abby's, the main plot line was the romance, but in Emily's, it felt like a subplot. So well, we're on the same. Okay. Look at us. We read the same book. Yeah, we did. Okay, well, did you have a favorite character from each book? I am a side character person. So Abby's book was a little hard to choose. So there was Jake from State Farm. Spoiler alert, it's the dog. Jake was not in there enough. I'm just going to say that. But there was also, the friend's name was Hank. I loved Hank. Which is my car's name. Yeah. I didn't know. And then there was also the employees, Maggie and Tina at the vet office, that were like always making sure that Xavier was eating and all that, like keeping an eye on Xavier. And I just thought they were the cutest. I loved them. And then Emily, I'm not sure I had a favorite, but I would probably say maybe like Jody. I love Jody. She was like kind of spunky. She wasn't afraid to show her feelings. like when she was mad at Margaret and she would like leave for days. Mm-hmm. So I know this doesn't make sense to some people, but there was Margaret's like a main character in the book, and Jody is kind of like the person at the house who helps her. And when Jody's annoyed with Margaret, she would just like take off for days. Yeah. And that kind of gets revealed a little bit later in the story for you. But I don't know. Jody was kind of spunky and I liked her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who were yours?
So in Abby's book, Xavier was my favorite, who he is the male main character. But I feel like he just had a lot of growth in the book, and the way that he showed up for his people and the way that he cared for Samantha and her family when they needed it. But it also doesn't hurt that he was described as really good looking. But there's something about, and maybe it's just like from personal experiences in my life, but something about like when a guy shows up and takes care of you when you don't like always need it, but like you want it. You know what I mean? And then in Emily's book, I think I'm saying his name right, but Cecile, he was so welcoming and made sure that Alice was taken care of. And you can tell that he has a big heart and loves people. And I wish we could have seen more of him in the book.
Yeah, he was
funny
good,
how
good
both
character.
of my characters are like that. So it's just interesting. Now, do you think that your favorite characters could be friends?
Maybe. It is interesting. So like both books kind of had a tie to like dementia, like Samantha's mother, and then there was Hayden's book about Len Sterling, and so like you do have a tie there. And I know they weren't listed as like my favorite characters, but I wouldn't be surprised if like Samantha and Alice met at like a grief group.
Yeah.
Right? For like the loss of a parent, especially since they both lost one at like a similar age. So I mean, I think there's a possibility. And then I know I mentioned the song Come On Eileen already, but in Emily's book, there was also that whole Peggy Quartet thing. Mm-hmm. So there was a connection between the two books with like music as well. And so, Cosmo wrote that song for Margaret. And I don't know, like that could also be like a weird connection to somehow build a friendship between a couple of the characters from the books.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think so, because Xavier had the relationship with Hank. And so I don't think it would be too far-fetched for him to be friends and to get life advice from Cecile.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's totally plausible. Like, low-key, Cecile and Hank, what if they were like brothers? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's in my head. Anyways, okay, what did you think about the settings?
I liked both of them. Abby kind of had the whole snowy, cold, right? But then they were also beachy California, so she kind of went back and forth. Mm-hmm. And this was one of my things, though, like with the whole dementia situation and the travel, like we didn't get as deep into the setting as I would like. Like I kind of felt like we were always moving. So aside from like a couple romantic dates, we really didn't get outside of the house all that much. But then Emily, she wins this one for me because hers was more firmly like in Georgia, local island. Like if I was to travel, I think that's where I would go. And, less congested, the little shop. I love, like, the little gift shop that was kind of made a presence in the story. And even, like, was it her mom's house? Like, I don't know. Like, I just love the whole vibe of everything going on, the descriptions of the hotel, the coffee shop. Like, I don't know. I feel like Emily Henry's book was more an area that I would visit.
I 100% agree with you. So, Abby's was California, sunshine. The setting changed between that and Minnesota. And Emily, Georgia, sticky, humid, island, and slow speed. Well, I'm already used to the humidity. But, I did go to California last year. And there were a lot of people. I was like, oh. Which, obviously, like I'm from Florida, so I'm used to people. But I said, wow, there's a lot of people here. I've never been to Minnesota. But Georgia, definitely the slow speed. Mm-hmm. Like if I go on a vacation and I stay somewhere, like I want it to be more slow speed, laid back, relaxing, still small, people know each other, that kind of thing. I love that. So we can go on vacation together, I guess.
I'm with you.
Okay, so what did you think about like the plots and comparing them to each other?
So Abby, I had written down definitely for animal lovers. Who doesn't love a tall, hunky vet? So Abby's had heavy themes, though, like, because you had sibling struggles, right, like, all throughout it as well. So, like, we're dealing with the romance, but also family. And I thought that was kind of interesting. But then, so if you haven't kind of deduced this yet, Samantha had to move home to care for her mother, who was suffering from dementia. And so the whole family was kind of in this house together. And then you meet the love of your life the night before you get on a plane to go home. Right. And so how are they ever going to forget each other? How are they going to make this work, right? But on the flip side, Emily's book, I know I mentioned this. I wish it had been marked a mystery because it was a little longer. And I don't know. I was surprised by like the lack of hanging out in dates, like since I was expecting a romance.
Right.
But it also dealt with heavy themes. And I just was kind of interested. Like Alice in this book, she wants to write a biography of this person that she always had on a pedestal, right? Like it was a connection point for like Alice and her dad. And then she quickly learns that she's competing with another writer for the job. And so that becomes the love interest in the book. So like the enemies to lovers. But the plots, like in a way, they couldn't have been more different.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I was kind of surprised about because when we realized both of these authors were coming out with a book at the same time, I was thinking more about some of Emily Henry's other books. And so I was expecting them to be way more similar than they were.
Right.
Yeah. So we had a vet, we had an author.
Yeah.
We had, some similarities, but I feel like more differences than anything.
Yeah, I totally agree because with Abby's, I mean, the love story was there, but it didn't take up the whole book because it was also the love story of a family. And I feel like that was a lot of the focus. And Emily's, like, her book was also focused on family, but, like, in a completely different way.
Yes.
And, like, you're learning as you go kind of thing. And so it was just, yeah, they were interesting, but not at all. Especially Emily's, like, was nothing like what I imagined it would be. Would you say that the romance was believable?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to kind of what I started to say earlier, and I was like, I'll bring this up later, where I had to suspend disbelief. So, Abby, yes and no. I don't doubt at all that, like, a long-distance relationship can work out. I think it just depends on the couple, and if you're all in, you're all in, and I love that. When I'm reading for escape, so I'm not looking for stuff to be 100% believable. But what I really struggled with was we had two characters in this book who both had financial troubles. And so the idea that they were just like buying a plane ticket and jumping on a plane to go visit each other, or that they were remodeling the house that Abby's family was all staying in, like taking out a loan as a family to do this whole thing together. I had a really hard time with that. And the one scene that kind of bothered me in the book was when they both bought plane tickets and I'm like, now we're just wasting money just to make like drama, and like none of this had to happen. Like that was the one scene that I was so bummed about. And like, don't get me wrong, like I love comfort, hope. Like it's the same reason I rewatch romantic comedies. Like who doesn't love New York City, where you're like, these people can't afford to live here, but then they're like rushing to catch somebody through traffic before they get on the airplane. Like
right.
I'm all about it, Emily's book, who am I to judge that one? That one's a little tough for me because I've never traveled alone and I've never had to travel for like work. So the idea of her going to like meet this person to try and write a book, like that was pretty brave. Like I don't really have anything to compare that to. So it actually felt a little more believable to me because I do think that's more possible. But here's what I did love about her book. The 24-hour diner testing is a completely legit plot point, and I will stand by that. I think that if you have a thing that you love and you have the ability to travel and see if you can find that thing other places, that you should do that. And what was amusing was earlier you said you love the Ferris wheel. That is my thing.
Yeah.
I will ride a Ferris wheel in a big city. I just think it's a great way to see the place. So like the Ferris wheel in Vegas, 10 out of 10, do it at night so you can see all of the lights. And the Seattle one that we went on not too long ago, 10 out of 10, but you got to do that in the daytime because you want to be able to see Mount Rainier. And make sure you sit on both sides because you want to be able to see like the sound and the mountain, but then you want to turn around so that you can see the city on the other side. So that's my thing. I compare Ferris wheels. That's my diner.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
I haven't ridden a lot of Ferris wheels in my life, but I do love them.
Well, I mean, Ferris wheels might not be your thing. Maybe you are a diner person. Maybe you're seeking the best ice cream sundae that's out there. I don't really know.
Well, you know me well.
Yeah.
I will say that, like, for me, it was actually kind of opposite. So for me, in Abby's book, it was totally like believable. I loved it. I was here for it. But as I am someone that is almost more focused on the conversation and getting to know someone, and when you're in a long distance relationship, you have to do that. But like the author made it believable with me in the sense of like both these characters had a lot going on in the places that they lived, and they also felt like they couldn't leave their homes and their jobs in the same sense of I do love this person, but I can't just drop everything. Like, you know, it'll put me in debt or it's leaving people, that kind of thing. In Emily's book, honestly, it didn't make me believe in it as much as I'm used to. I feel like they only had like a few real conversations that weren't based around the book that they were fighting over. But maybe also because like I have never been in love, so do people like fall in love that fast? And I know that they can, but I'm like, that's a few conversations. What you mean? So anyways, would you say that these books are more spicy scenes or closed door romance?
I would lean more toward closed door. I think Abby definitely was closed door.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty common. I think that's pretty typical for her books. Emily, I would say the door was ever so slightly cracked. So, like, there were some bits, but, like, I don't think they were scandalous by any means.
Yeah.
You know, I think they were totally fine. But, yeah, just a slightly ajar. What did you think?
Yeah. Completely agree. And it was kind of a nice change for contemporary romance. Because I know people read contemporary romance, like, for the spice. But, like, I'm not like that. And I don't think you're necessarily like that. Like, we love, like, the whole story of the coming together and all of that. But Emily's, I love the way that you described that it was just slightly cracked.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that wording is fantastic. Okay, so I mentioned it earlier. Are you able to say Abby Jimenez title without singing it like Taylor Swift?
No, I sang it every single time. Did you also notice that she had the playlist at the back?
Yes, I'm a sucker for a playlist in a book. Ugh.
Have you been seeing that more and more? Like, I feel like I'm starting to notice some authors that have been doing that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm noticing it a lot more in like romance books. And I love it. And I also love it when someone, because I personally use Apple Music, and when someone goes on there and automatically made one and made it like public so people can go on there and you can, and then you're like, oh my goodness. And then if you're reading the book and they mention the song at whatever point, and then you stop and you listen to the song, I love that. Huge fan.
It's funny that you say you're noticing it with romance, because I've been noticing it in more horror books. So if you need like a Halloween playlist,
both ends,
let me know.
That's hilarious. But I will say I did sing the title a few times, and I think it's hard to say the name of the book without thinking of the song.
Yeah,
because that's just what naturally goes in your head. You know
there
what I mean?
is another book that just came in the other day. I think it's brand new. I only saw it for the first time, and I said, oh, is this what we're doing now? Just Taylor Swift lyrics?
Oh.
And I think it was called Out of the Woods.
Yeah.
And it made me laugh. And
that is funny.
Yeah. I'm like, I know it's a common phrase, but still.
Yeah. Okay, so what are your final thoughts about the books?
I have a couple. So for Abby, there was a line in there about hamster death being a universal experience. And I just have to say it's very relatable.
It is.
My family had a situation. We had a hamster named Hank. He met an unfortunate end. We may have fibbed to our children and only recently told them the truth. And so now it has become a big family joke that they now know what happened to their hamster. And he was a troublemaker from the beginning.
That's so funny.
I can't. And then one of the things that she did that took me a little out of the story is that within the first 20 pages, there was 3 references to a character from another book series.
Right.
And I do think that that's a nice tribute to the author that, like, you admire. Like, maybe you're actually friends. Maybe you just admire them. I don't know that part of it. But I feel like saying it once would be enough. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Because, like, what if somebody read those books and, like, doesn't like the character? Or maybe they didn't read the books and they don't get the reference. So I worry about, like, maybe people not quite getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also love, because I was a little bit into the story and it hadn't come up yet. And I thought, is she not going to do it? Nadia Cakes was finally mentioned on page 99. So if you're not familiar, Abby is actually the owner and founder of Nadia Cakes, and it makes an appearance in like all of her books. Like somebody's always like, oh, I picked up some Nadia Cakes and I brought them for you. Oh, now we're in love. Like, it's very cute. It's super sweet. And then on page 117, I read this in your voice.
Oh, no.
And she said, you're obsessed with me, Xavier.
Yeah.
And I could just hear you. Why are you so obsessed with me?
If y'all knew the amount of times that I say that at work, anytime anyone asks me to do something, I'm like, ugh, why are you obsessed with me? So
I loved it.
That's hilarious.
Okay, and then this one, I'm trying not to cry when I say it, but on page 135, there was a conversation between the characters about wanting a witness to your life. And this was the moment that I felt the most invested in the book. So, like, this was kind of my turning point. And I do think that there's a lot of people who kind of seek to be like seen and noticed and remembered. And I know you can expand on this if you want, because you brought this up a little bit during book club, but like, it's not the big moments in our life. It's like all the moments, and you want a witness to like your whole life. And that like really, really hit me when I was reading it. And so that was probably like the halfway point of the book, but that was when I was like, okay, I'm all in. And then the car, the dart, everything with this car in this book made me laugh. So my dad builds street rods. And do you remember the scene where they were like trying to open the vent in the car and all the leaves started to blow in? Could you picture that at all?
Oh, I mean, yes and no. Because it made me think of the movie Where the Heart Is.
Okay.
When they had
Okay. So my dad, like, these vents are actually really common in street rods.
Okay.
And so, like, we have cars that have that vent, and you push the little thing and it pops open, and it's like in the middle there. And it just, as you're driving, it just blows. I wish I could say it was cool air, but it's just warm air, just blowing around.
Yeah.
But it cracked me up when they were like talking about the leaves and all, you know, I could just picture it all. And then in terms of Emily's, some of the notes that I had, I really like that the characters had a lot of growth and closure. So I know it seems like I liked Abby's book more. And I think in terms of expecting a contemporary romance, yes, I did. But Emily's book had a lot of growth and a lot of closure. And I really like that. And I also appreciated our main character, Alice, having that moment with her mom where she was finally able to like be honest with her mom, and their relationship changed because I know I alluded earlier to a connection that Alice and her dad had because of this like song and all that stuff. She had this connection with her dad, but it also meant she had this like struggle with her mom. And so I loved that they were able to kind of have that change in their relationship, and that it led to like a new project for Alice, and it was something that she really wanted to do. And then I also loved when she went back home, and you know, like when you go back to your parents' house and it's like your childhood is kind of still in front of you. And like, I know not everybody's parents keep everything, but like she was describing that ugly neon blanket, like in her childhood bedroom. And it just made me laugh. I love small details like that because it really can humanize a character for you, and it like gives you a connection with that character. And I really feel that when I walk into like my family's homes, like people who have lived in their house forever, and you see things and you're just like, wow, like I remember that wallpaper. I thought that was so cool when I was little, and oh my gosh, I can't believe my dad still has this like sitting around the house.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Those were some of mine. I think those were the things that stuck out for me.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts?
I do. For Abby's, I had really high hopes for the book, and I was afraid of being disappointed, and I was not. I absolutely loved it. And I don't know if it's just around the time that I read it, but I was really emotional throughout the whole book. I cried a good 4 times, and then I sobbed once towards the end, and I think I was texting you about it. And I said it before earlier, but like as someone who's not in love, I'm a sucker for a relationship that works really hard to make it work. Like, isn't that what we all want in life? I will say that the family was stressing me out during the renovation process. I feel like they were taking a lot on, and I was like, ugh. But I just kept telling myself we're going to trust their process. And even though Xavier's friend group was only in the book a couple of times, I absolutely loved them. And we love when a friend group is all green flags. And I think I could see a lot of my friends in each of those characters. And I think that's why I loved it so much. And for Emily, I put walks are a big thing in this book. And I will say that her books are usually a big hit for me. And this one fell a little flat in the sense of contemporary romance. And I really think a huge part of it was how I determine a book before I actually read it. So I went in thinking that it was going to be a full-on contemporary romance book. And it was a little bit of that, but I think I would have been more sold if it had, if I had been told that like it was a story within a story, or even like almost historical fiction-y a little bit, or literary fiction-y. I think I would have actually enjoyed it more ahead of time with that. I still loved it. I still enjoyed it. Like it was still a great read. But it was just different, but not in a bad way.
Yes, and I have had a few people I know who rated it higher than I did because I talked to them about that beforehand. Yes. And so when they went into it, they weren't expecting a contemporary romance. They were reading something else that had like romance on the side.
Yeah.
And so for them, it was like, no, this was like an amazing book. It was my favorite Emily Henry book. And I can see that.
Exactly.
I get it.
Yes. So maybe we should do a little bit more research. Anyways, all right. So I have one more question for you. And that is, what are you currently reading?
Okay. I'm reading The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne.
Okay.
Yes. So my one kiddo is reading this for school, and I have never read it. It was not part of my required reading. So I was like, why not? So I told him to kind of keep me posted about where they are, because they read the book like at school. And then, so he's kind of updating me so I know what chapters to read. And then I told him when it's done that we'll have a movie day and we'll watch Easy A.
Fun.
Yes, because he's never seen it, and it's an amazing movie, and I'm really excited.
That's absolutely fun.
Yeah.
I love that.
What are you reading?
I'm actually reading The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. I have currently been on a thriller kick, and this one is thriller. My aunt actually recommended it to me, and I thought I was done with thrillers. But here we go. There is a family dynamic aspect in this book, and I have unintentionally been reading a lot of those lately. So we're going to see I'm not very far into it, but it's a daughter who's a ghostwriter. Her dad's a famous author, and she's gone home, and she's supposed to be ghostwriting a book for him. Because he does have a sickness. So we'll see how it goes.
Is this the one with the cool pages? And
yes.
It's really neat.
Yeah, the pages are sprayed on the edges, and I just absolutely love it. It's so fun. So if you've read these books that we talked about today, let us know. Let us know your thoughts, your feelings, if you agree with us. If you think our opinions are complete trash, let us also know. But like nicely, please. Email us at themulberrylibrary@gmail.com. Share with us your thoughts, your feelings. If you want to read it, you know us on Instagram, on Facebook. Follow us. And with that.
And don't forget to tell us what book animal you are.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
I think that's everything, though.
Yeah, it is.
Awesome. Happy reading, Mulberry.